how do you grow to have that mindset shift so others can do the same?
Good influence, right? I'll give you some credit. You wrote a great book. I don't know. I'll say this about myself, and I can't. This can't be unique, right? Who doesn't love to follow a leader that they want to emulate? And I think that is such an important thing in your life. It was very evident and quick for me. And sorry if I'm being too forward here, but you're a guy that I wanted to follow because you've got a plan and a life that I'd like to emulate. And so that just makes it a lot easier. In my case, if you're looking to implement a plan that somebody has, why not connect your wagon, hitch your wagon to them, right? They're probably the best equipped to be able to help you grow in that process. And so, yeah, I would say influences are the biggest impact on me.
Hey guys, Wally Olivieri. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. You know, I learned over time, a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own is, unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show.
How cool is that? We're live on the 24/7 Mindset podcast. I think that one of the biggest things that excites me the most is, man, I'm just following my heart. I think there's a lot of podcasters out there that do a massive amount of research, and kudos to them. My biggest goal today is to share who I think is special. What do I think is special about them in bite-sized pieces that all us loan officers can learn from each other. So, Gavin, thank you for giving your time, sharing your wisdom, and being on the 24/7 Mindset Show.
Heck yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. So first things first, how's the golf game?
How's it going?
How's the golf game?
Oh, it's improving. I'll say last time we played together, the only time we played together, was the most humbling golf experience I think I've had in 20 years. So thankfully I had a lesson scheduled. Before that, I kind of knew I wasn't in a good place. And that one lesson has helped. I shot 79 and 83 since the lesson. So
that's awesome.
Much more functional, enjoyable as opposed to frustrating. So
well, two things. You were not really. We did not play a pitch and putt together. First of all, so it was a little bit of a difficult course. But more importantly, you're playing with rental set clubs. That I can't tell you the last time I ever played with a rental set clubs, and I don't. Hopefully, I never have to. So I know that
the quality was fine.
Yeah.
But then the 9-iron to 58-degree gap, which was what I had, that made it a little more tricky as well. So.
Yeah, too funny. You get a chance to watch any of the live tournament there this weekend?
Yeah, it was the PGA Tour tournament was kind of a little bit of a downer tournament, so it made live all the more exciting.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that it was at Merido.
Exactly. It's funny to see. I don't know. It's probably a good thing. It's a funny thing, but to see PGA Tour players or tour players complain about the course being too difficult and how they feel it's like unfair, and the rest of us weekend warriors are just going out there and like enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly the most challenging golf course I've ever played. Did the live guys complain about it, that it was too hard?
Oh yeah, I'll find you a picture. I'll send you something on Instagram. It was amazing. It was they talked about how like it was such a tricked out course. It was the most difficult thing they've ever seen. I mean, Brooks Koepka was 6 over through his first 9 holes and withdrew. So, but I think my two favorite things about golf is how much it's really close to like the real estate world. I don't. The mortgage business. My mortgage business is very similar to my golf game. I don't do anything that's drastically special. It's not like I hit it 300 yards, so maybe 240, 250 off the tee. I don't, it's not like I can get up and down from anywhere. I do my little bump and runs and try to hit to the flat part of the greens. And I don't try to go with par fives and two. And that's how my mortgage business is. I think if you look at I don't do anything beyond really special in mortgage, but I'm super consistent. I'm a consistent golfer and I'm a consistent loan officer. And I think that's where one thing that most loan officers really struggle with is their consistent success because they've got inconsistent effort. So one of the questions I want to ask you is as you look at your mortgage game, how do you, you've had a very consistent, successful career. How do you focus on being more consistent and instead of, the shiny new thing in the business?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 7 years and I even need to reboot on consistency all the time, right? Because I think that there's different ways you can be successful in this business. I think the first way I became successful in this business was with a very consistent program. So I'll credit the core and plug them that it's not for everybody, but it was a very clear plan on, hey, you should do this on Monday and you should do this on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And if you execute the plan, you can be successful.
Yeah.
And I did for several years. And I think it's really why I was able to build a successful business in a pretty short period of time. Obviously, COVID rates helped me a lot too. Got into the business at the right time with rates in the 2s and 3s. But I think why I left the core behind is because I didn't love that process, if that makes sense, right? And so you and I have talked a lot about you got to fall in love with the process and you got to enjoy the process. The results you can't control. The results will follow suit, right? But I got really weary of the process of the core, and again, not picking on the core, great process, but it became too much. Gosh, it was kind of just militaristic, if you will, and my heart wasn't in it. It was more, hey, do this because we say it works, and yeah, the proof was there, but there was not the satisfaction in it, if that makes sense. And so I kind of drifted away from that, and I wouldn't say I've just been in a period of drift by any means, but I've been certainly looking for what's to replace the process of the core, and that's why I think I've latched on so hard to 24/7 mindset. It's a very repeatable process, if that makes sense, but I think not absent of your heart being in it. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Absolutely does. And I'll be a smart aleck for a minute. I was obviously we all know who Todd Duncan is. He's kind of like the godfather of mortgage. I was at Sales Mastery years back, and I was on stage, and he goes, "Does that make sense?" And I said, "No, Todd, it does not make sense. It makes dollars." And the whole entire everybody in the audience started erupting in laughter, and he just stared at me like, why are you being a jerk on my stage? But no, so when you said that, does that make sense? It reminded me of that. But no, it absolutely does make sense. Completely understandable. But I think that's where, there's a video I made that just got posted a couple of days ago. It talked about purpose and profit. The previous coaching platform you're in, it served you profitably, but didn't serve your purpose. The coaching platform that you're in now with 24/7 mindset is serving your purpose, and it's serving your profit. But 24/7 mindset is not for everyone. Calling your database isn't for everyone. There's people that never want to talk to their past clients. There's people that never want to talk to financial advisors or CPAs or family well attorneys. I'm 100% confident 24/7 mindset is not for everyone. But what's super cool about it is you fell in love with what the giver's mindset and the giver's heart out there in giving, tracking more what you give out referrals wise than focus on tracking what you receive back. And my question to you is how do you have that mindset shift of going from how many referrals can I get to how many referrals can I give out, and then being brave enough to ask for referrals back?
Yeah, well, I think twofold. I read your book, it's probably been about a year ago, and by read, I listened to it. I tend to try to listen to most business books these days and grab a cup of coffee, walk around the neighborhood, and burn a half an hour at a time, a couple days a week. But I think certainly the provocative nature of that. Also, other great books. I'm trying to recall. B&I is all about the giver's gain.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of that little red book that
Go Giver.
that B&I plugs?
Go
The
Giver.
Go Giver.
Yeah.
Such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with B&I, with 24/7 mindset, with the Go Giver, it's all about, hey, you need to be willing to invest first and provide value first. And then when you've done that, then you've earned the opportunity to ask for the referral, right? Or even better yet, the person that you've given value to feels obligated to give you a referral because you've blessed them with value that they feel that they want to reciprocate. So
Yeah, I'd say also it's such a simple mindset shift. Like I don't know how your bank account works, but the way my bank account works, I've got to make a deposit to take a withdrawal. It's not like you go to a bank and say, "Hey, I'm here to take a withdrawal," and they're like, "Well, you never made a deposit." Where I think most loan officers really struggle understanding, where they completely gloss over this, that at the end of the day, like we've got to make deposits into our referral partners. We've got to help them generate income. We've got to help them generate business for themselves, so then we can earn the opportunity of them helping us generate revenue and referrals. Where I feel like, a lot of loan officers out there really struggle is like, hey, can I have a deal? Can I have a deal? Can I have a deal? Instead of, hey, how do we generate a deal together? How do we generate a closing together? How do we generate a conviction together? And, the biggest thing that moving forward is, I think what I love about the 24/7 mindset community, and you being one of the leaders in that space, is understanding the go-giver's mindset. And my question I have for you is like, how do you handle sometimes when you give, but they don't give back?
yeah, totally human here, and don't always handle that well, right? And certainly, I think we've been doing things lately in our business that have been much more intentional with giving and with providing value. And so we're actually trying to figure out, hey, what are the words that we can say? What are the requests that we can make, and how do we want to say those now that we have made those deposits? If that answers the question. Was there a second part there?
No, I would just say the biggest thing is, once you've made those deposits and once you've made that, like I wanted the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, I wanted to make sure everybody listening to the podcast completely understands the value of shifting from cold calling realtors to giving out referrals to realtors, to CPAs, to wealth partners. But so that's what I feel like you've really adopted, that mindset, the 24/7 mindset, and wanting to bring that to life. But tell us a little bit about your career. How long have you been in the business? What's production volume kind of look like, and so that people can understand a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, been in the mortgage business for a little more than 7 years at this point. Prior to that, worked for a little small company. This is my dad joke that I use on everybody, called Microsoft. I'm sure everybody's heard of that, right? So I kind of think of that as my unofficial master's degree. Super entrepreneurial company. Prior to that, worked for Costco and always wanted to be on the decision-making side of the table, having people pitch me as opposed to being on the sales side. And it's funny, that shift to Microsoft and just the entrepreneurial nature of the company actually kind of really lit a fire in me that said, what would it look like to be on the sales side? And so that led me to take a risk on myself and leave that Microsoft income and security behind, and really had a passion for real estate, and had a good friend and mentor who's been in the mortgage space for a long time, a guy named Nate Lacoste, who said, hey, well, instead of real estate agent, why don't you look at mortgage? That might be a better fit for you. And kind of, so fast forward 7-something years later, it's been a good fit for sure. And I'm forgetting the other part of the question that you'd asked. Oh, volume. So first 6 months of this business, as anybody knows, I think you have to be really prepared if you're going to get into this business with, at any stage of life, that you're going to have to somehow float yourself, right? So we were fortunate enough that we had some reserves. We'd sold a house recently and relocated from Western Washington to over here in Boise, Idaho. And you can't really start a business without investing. And so thankfully we had that mindset and we had those reserves, because when you leave a salaried job behind and go into a full commission role, you're not going to make money right away. And so we had the right mindset But even though we went into it with the right mindset, it was still, 8-9 months before we finally felt like, okay, I think we're going to make it. And it was probably about the 1 year mark where the volume was in a place where I was satisfied and like, oh, cool, this is great. This is going to work, right?
Yeah.
And so thankfully we kind of rolled into the end of 2019 and into 2020 and rates just hit the floor, and it was a really, really nice springboard. So I just feel very fortunate that the timing worked out the way that it did for us. We didn't play our cards right necessarily, right? We took a risk and we tried to evaluate and be smart, and turns out it was really, really good timing for us. So volume for me has looked like an average of about 20 million over that 7 years. So some years better than others, right? But certainly doing well with that volume, and would be very, very happy if it never got better. But at the same point in time, like, would be really great if it did get better, right? I'd love to build a business and grow my team, and if I could fast forward 5 years from now, how awesome would it be to have a thriving mortgage business that's usually an earned income business, right? But that maybe operates without my day-to-day direct involvement. So,
well,
yeah.
Also, I think what's great about that is you've got a healthy business, but you've got a business that you enjoy. Unfortunately, I talked to a lot of loan officers, and there is so many things that they do not enjoy about their mortgage business, and that but you enjoy the people you work with, you enjoy the people that you're prospecting to, and also you enjoy the relationship with your clients. Now, is that something about your spirit, or is that something that you've learned over your career?
It's probably both. I think one of the cool things about being self-employed, and I think this is just a trap and a lie that we all, forget about, is, hey, we get to choose who we want to work with. In my market, there's like 9,000 real estate agents, right? And there's no possible way that I could work with any and all of them, right? But because there are so many, I can pick and choose. Hey, you're a good fit, or you're not a good fit, or you don't like me. That's okay. Aaron Bradley's got a 25%. 50% of people are going to be indifferent to you. 25% of people are not going to like you. But then focus on the 25% of people that actually do like you. And if you fish in that pond, right, then I think you can be a lot more successful. So I think that's been a mindset I've tried to take into this. And then, I'm a believer in Christ. And so the other thing is I just try to be loving and try to emulate and reflect that in every single relationship and every single conversation that I have, right? I try to treat people in a way that the Lord would treat people, and I try to treat people in a way that I'd want to be treated. And so that's the other side of that. So.
Absolutely. Amen. Absolutely love that. And I think you're underselling yourself quite a bit. I mean, I think one of the favorite things experiences I've had with you, my favorite conversations, is you flew in town for the 24/7 Mindset Live event, and you're at the house, and you're talking about it. I think it was like the night before, a couple of nights before, you played 9 holes with your kiddo or something like that, and then you went and took out the boat and you went surfing, and I'm like, you did that at night? And you're like, yeah, it's like we're out in the water in 15 minutes. It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. I love, and when we talked earlier in the week, you were like, on a camper and enjoying the outdoors, and you're living life. And I think there's a lot to be said to that, Gavin. There's unfortunately so many people that just work behind a desk as a loan officer. They don't enjoy their world that they're having to financially support. And one thing I enjoyed with you and the spirit that you have in your mortgage business is you work to live. You don't live to work.
100% true. And I'm so glad that shows up. It's what I believe. It's not always what I feel like gets executed. So it's always a struggle. I mean, we're self-employed and we're in sales in this business. And so it is so time consuming, so mind consuming. My mind share, I think is a good word I try to say all the time, is often gobbled up by mortgage and by this partner and that partner, and trying to find more deals and more opportunities, and then you get moments here and there where you can kind of zoom out for a second and be like, hey, what's the whole point of this? Because we're not taking any of it with us.
Yeah.
And so if we're earning a healthy income, we've got an invitation to enjoy some of that. We've got an invitation to be generous with that. And I mean, even this is kind of random, but even this morning, I'm wearing a Young Life hat here, so I'll plug Young Life for a second. But a guy that I support in Young Life, he texts me this morning and he says, "Hey, Gavin, I've got a couple of guys that want to go to camp, but they don't have enough money to do it. It's $180 a kid. Can you support one or both or whatever?" And so I paused for a second, and I was honored to be asked, and I took a screenshot of it and sent it to my wife, and I said, "Hey, should we say yes to one, to two, or to none?" And so she quickly replied back, my wife Robin, she says, "Say yes to one for sure, and then if the second one doesn't get covered, then we'll say yes to two." And then just the heart behind it, this is why it's really fun. It's like, well, why do we have money? If it's not for that, what's the whole point? Does that make sense? And so we've got money so we can enjoy life, but at the same time so that we can be generous. So that just happened this morning and was kind of seemed appropriate to share. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll if that second one does not get filled, let me know. You can count on me for the second one. But I'd say what I love about that is like the spirit and understanding that we are in a people business. And I think that a lot of the challenge of most loan officers, one thing I love about you and your business is you're completely the other side of the spectrum of being relational, where most loan officers are transactional. So how has that served you in building partnerships that you're more focused on being relational than your competition being transactional?
yeah, I mean, I've got some really close friends in this business because of it, right? And then again, using that freedom mindset, because I do want to be in relationship with people and not just be transactional. You've said it. I don't know if you said it in your book or you've said it just in various coaching sessions, but you want to do business with people that don't rub you the wrong way when they text or call you on the weekend. It's like, when you see that caller ID come up and it's somebody that you really don't enjoy and you don't want to work with, that should be an indicator of like, okay, then we should probably not try to do this going forward, right? So if we can use that as a barometer, and the people that you're excited for them to call you on nights or weekends, those are the people that are easiest to do business with because they're obviously your friends, right? So I think that's been my approach, is try to be a professional friend if that's a thing. So just be as genuine as I can and try to enjoy people and try to be selective as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
With folks that I invest my time in and that invest their time in me. So
yeah, and what I said previously, the question that you used to be about, well, how do you know who to go after referral partners wise? And my advice has always been the same. I only go after referral partners that I want to do life with. If I can't see my wife and I on a double date with them and their spouse, then I'm not going to prospect. If I can't see us grabbing a coffee or grab lunch or breakfast and enjoying the conversation, or us playing golf or living life together, then it's going to be such an uphill battle personally that no matter how much business they refer you guys are never going to enjoy each other. So, there's so many different coaching platforms out there that say call 100 realtors a day or go to 100 open houses a week. And my point of view is like, I go to Facebook, and would I go to their page and like enjoy their feed? If it's negativity or all this like bad stuff on their feed and they're venting and they're aggressive and they're whatever, like that's not somebody that I want to be associated with. But to me, selfishly, if you're a golfer and you're a family man, and then you've got a business that's healthy, and you focus on referrals more referral based or more database based than it is like lead generation type of realtor, then that to me is somebody I want to go get in business with and be a partner with, because I feel I can add a lot of value to them. If I go to your Facebook page and there's pictures with you in closings and clients are closing, each client's got a mean looking face and no one's smiling and no one's celebrating, then that tells me that you kind of miss the whole part about being a relationship type of business. So
100%. Yeah, I've been just a recent thing I've been learning is, hey, kind of scrolling through Instagram specifically. So many real estate agents are very, very invested in Instagram content, and just kind of using that as a barometer of like, hey, because I'll get recommended to an agent potentially through a title partner or something like, hey, this person might be a good person for you to go pursue. And then you go to their page and so much of their life is shown right there. And I think after a few minutes, you can probably get a pretty good idea. Yeah. Is this somebody that is a good fit for me or not a good fit, right? And then you can kind of just pursue or move on, one of the two.
Yeah. So. Well, tell us a little bit about some of your prospecting strategies. How do you work? How do you put together a list? How do you use affinity partners to help you make introductions? Like how do you get into new prospecting relationship?
Yeah, I mean, in the old school days with the core, it was a numbers game, right? And I would go to open houses and I would try to hit 4 or 5 on a Friday or a Saturday, and I'd take one of my little kids with me at the time because everybody loves cute little kids, and I would take like a spring water and a Cliff Bar and a smile and a kiddo and just pop in, say hello, make a small promise. Hey, how's your open house going? Oh, it's fine, whatever. And hey, would it be okay if I called you on Monday, and make a small promise? And then they're like, sure, whatever. And then when you would do that, then it's like, oh, small promise kept, right? And so that was how I used to prospect a lot. Trying not to, I haven't done that in years, to be totally honest. But one of the things I've just been learning recently is just the power of social media, and matching that up with a list from a title partner that just says, hey, here's people's production for the last 12 months, right? And so kind of for me, it's sorting through that list and looking for a range of volume. And then what I've been doing is going to social media to see if I can't learn something about that person, and then learning from you guys. Really, I think I'm going to botch it, but it's basically it's like their content, it's comment on their content, and start to just kind of show up and be present, and then eventually, you can DM them, and it's just a much less harsh way to pursue somebody. It's much more natural versus just a cold call, right? Because you could take a production list and you could say, hey, you fit my window, and you've got a phone number and a name, let me give you a call. And that's probably a lot less effective versus, warming it up through social media. So I've never been a guy that loves social media, but I think it's a fantastic tool specifically for us in this business. And it almost makes it like fishing in a barrel a little bit, if that makes sense, because you can you can learn so much about somebody. So,
well, I feel like the biggest advantage that I feel social media gives us is when somebody that you want to prospect to makes a post, it's a participation. It's an invitation to participate in their life. Meaning that when someone makes a post and you want to get a relationship with them, priority one is hearting it or liking it or making a comment on it. And you do that enough times, maybe twice, 3, 4 times over like a week span or a 2-week span, you start the algorithm. The way it clearly works is if you're commenting on their page or their posts, they start seeing your stuff, then it opens up the door of sending them a private message, and it opens up the door of getting more of a relationship with them. What I love the most is when I start liking someone or hearting someone's post, I start commenting on them. The algorithm starts sending them my personal posts, and they start liking it, or I can see that they've watched the story, or they've hearted it. Then if they're communicating back with, then it's an open welcome to getting a relationship. Then it's a phone call or a DM or an email.
100%. It just warms it up so much more effectively. And I think there's also something true, especially for folks that maybe are newer to social media. It takes courage to make a post. It depends on what it is, right? But somebody's putting themselves out there. There's a little bit of vulnerability there. And if you can approve of their message, right, whatever that looks like, or just recognize them for doing that, I think it kind of gives them a, that's nice. They liked my stuff. They noticed me. You know what I mean? So.
I can't tell you how many times I'll even say it by myself. I can't tell you how many times I've made a post and is anybody gonna like this? I keep going back and check it. Did I get any likes? And they're like, oh, thank God, somebody liked it. 2 people, 3 people. But I'll also tell myself that there's been a handful of posts that I've made that I've gone a whole day that not getting any likes, and then I'll go delete the post for whatever reason. So I don't know if that tells about me, but it's funny to feel nervous. But what you said is really important. I'm nervous that someone might not like my post because I'm vulnerable of putting myself out there. So how do you put yourself out there? How do you make yourself vulnerable? And then how has that worked out for
Yeah, I mean, I'll give credit to BombBomb first and foremost. I've been using BombBomb for, I think, all 7 years of my mortgage career. And so doing so, I've gotten fairly comfortable putting a camera in front of my face, right? So I think I've sent, I bet the better part of 1,000 BombBomb videos to clients. Just I'll get a referral in, we'll have a conversation, I'll do a recap with a video, or we'll get a referral in and I'll shoot a quick video to say, hey, looking forward to meeting you, wanted to introduce myself. And so I think just getting reps on camera helps a lot with that, that comfort level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as far as like creating content for social media or for YouTube, I think there's always an element of nerves there. And I interviewed somebody yesterday she's got a huge social media following, and she's very, very good at it, and she is not nervous on the camera any longer. But I mean, the amount of reps that she has and the amount of followers that she has, and it's just, this has been a way of life for her for so long that her comfort level is just stronger than most, if that makes sense. So I think reps help a lot. And then I think be thoughtful about what you're putting out there. So for me, if I'm like filming a educational YouTube video or something, the very first time I got in the studio to do that, it was a disaster because I didn't plan as I needed to plan, right? I was coached like, oh yeah, just have a topic and go sit down and start talking to the camera. And well, that's really hard for me, especially if you're talking about like an FHA loan or something, because you can go any number of places. And so for me, I learned really quickly that I need to be super prepared if that's the type of content that I'm producing or creating. For stuff like this is my absolute favorite, whether it's, being on your podcast here or whether it's hosting my own podcast. Very little preparation goes into it because I just kind of take the mindset in of like, hey, we're sitting down, we're having lunch, we're having coffee. And instead of that conversation, basically being lost forever because neither one of us took great notes or nobody actually recorded it sitting there, right? Instead, we get to do that in front of a camera and we get a record for ourselves and hopefully we can be a blessing to other people. So this type of stuff is tons and tons of fun. I think putting a camera in your face and trying to be educational, whether it's Instagram or it's YouTube, I think that's just more tricky and probably always going to have a little bit of element of nerves there because you want to make sure you say the right thing. And then you're hoping that somebody likes it. So
praying and hoping. I love it. All right. One thing I feel like you are kind of growing a niche in our space is YouTube. So what's the vision for YouTube? What's the vision for podcasts that you built? And what's the vision? How has that been able to help you grow your business?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I am not a creative person at all. Like my kids mock me, make fun of me all the time. I can't even draw a stick figure. So I'm not super creative. I'm pretty good at executing a plan if somebody gives me a great idea. So I'll plug a guy named Craig Flood. I'm actually sitting in his studio right now. He's the reason that I have any content on YouTube whatsoever because he's a real estate agent. He's got a really successful YouTube channel here in Idaho. And he's basically said, hey, as a mortgage broker or as a loan officer at the time, he's like, very few people are doing that on YouTube. Yeah. He said there's a huge opportunity there for you to go market nationwide because you're talking about programs that are not market specific, right? They're literally, the whole country can benefit from learning about conventional loans or FHA loans or whatever it is you're talking about. So his point was go market to all 50 states. Let's create an educational YouTube channel, and then let's see what can happen from there. And so we committed to doing that, and we've got 27 or 28 videos out there on our YouTube channel right now, wow. Long form called Loans Made Simple. Now it's very the content I think is great, but I might be a narcissist, right? So I think the content's great and helpful, but very few eyeballs have seen it. So we're committed to that library of content and continuing to add to it as time goes by. But one of the cool things about trying something is you can be as committed as you want to it, and then maybe you get a better idea. Yep. And so, again, same guy kind of planted a different idea in my head and was like, hey, what if you started a podcast as well, right? And what if that podcast reason was not at all to grow an audience, right? If the audience grows by accident, that's cool. But what if your podcast was purely, and this is where I think it fits so well with 24/7 mindset and the 6-lane highway. What if your podcast purpose was only to honor the guest and to help that guest be introduced better to their audience, to be introduced to my audience, and just make them look like a rock star, right? And so it's been super fun. It's been fantastic. We think we've recorded 6 or 7 episodes at this point. We've got 2 live on YouTube. We've got 3 live on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And yeah, we're just trying to be super thoughtful with who those guests are.
Yeah.
But it's a hoot because we bring something into this first-class studio in downtown Boise. Thanks to Kit Studios for that. And just the lighting and the camera and everything about it is, most people are like, whoa, I've never done anything like this before, even if they've said they've been on a podcast, right? You bring them into this very professional, high-end setting, and you just start to honor them and bless them and listen to them tell their story, and it's just been a hoot. So it's absolutely a hell yes for me. And Erin Bradley, again, she's like, hey, don't do anything that isn't an absolute hell yes. And so for me, that one is that. It's been a ton of fun. I was in the studio yesterday with 2 different real estate agents, which was great. I wasn't sure how I'd do back to back with having energy, but the cool thing is it's just conversation, right? And that's what we do all day in this business, is have conversation with people. And so just think of it as coffee shop conversation, but in a studio, and everybody's story is unique. And so it worked out really, really good. So that's our thing we're most excited about right now. That's kind of the top of our marketing efforts is, hey, who would be a good fit to be on the podcast? Because not everybody will be.
Yeah.
But those that are a good fit, it's been fantastic to be able to honor them. And then, we're giving something of tremendous value on the front end that really nobody else in our market is doing, at least with that kind of purpose, if that makes sense. And and then now we're gonna, hopefully be able to see the reciprocating value come in. So,
well, what I love about, there's a lot of things I love about that, but I love that you're making your mistakes while you're small and you're learning from those mistakes. I love that you're being super exclusive on who you have on your podcast. And I mean, I've not even got the invite, so I mean, I don't know what I got to qualify for.
Well, you're on my list at some point, absolutely.
But
you have to fly out to Boise though, so we'll sit in the studio together.
As long as I bring my clubs, it's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd also say that the biggest thing is I love about it is that you're so purposeful and very thought process behind it. And I think that will serve you really well in business. There is, unfortunately, again, there's a lot of loan officers or any kind of professionals, sales professionals out there that will just throw stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. And, my biggest encouragement for you is you're very thoughtful and you're very purposeful in your process, but make sure you're tracking. Make sure just like we track applications and conversion rates, make sure that you're tracking on your end to make sure that the systems are there, that you're generating an ROI off that. I think that what I love about you doing the podcast, it mirrors and matches 2 things: your purpose and your profit. You're automatically going to get more business from it, but that purpose, and you ask such great, thoughtful questions that makes it really easy to show someone's special gifts out market.
Yeah, it's at different points during the recording, you kind of hit that flow state that everybody hopes and dreams about. And so I don't know that I'm a great podcast host. I aspire to be one. I'm having fun doing it. And occasionally, even yesterday, I kind of hit that. I don't even know where the question came from, but it was a really cool moment in the recording. And somehow this question just popped into my mind and I asked it. And this poor gal started crying, and it was a very kind of vulnerable, meaningful moment, and we'll see how the episode shakes out from an editing standpoint. It'll probably be awesome.
Yeah.
But
well, that's awesome. I think that's super rad. I think it's one of the major things that you brought up her name 2-3 times now, Erin Bradley, one of my favorite human beings I've ever met, and we only met through social, only met through, she was on the podcast also, and now was she your coach, or how did you all know each other? What do you recommend for others to get?
Yeah, so coming out of the core, I was coachless for a while, and I got introduced to Erin through a colleague of mine, Amy Wershing, and Erin was the first person that I think spoke truth to me, like, hey, build a business that you want to execute on, right? You have so much freedom in this to pursue who you want to pursue. And just because the core says to do this, well, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it that way or do it exactly as they say. You have tons of choices and tons of options in this business. There's so many different ways to be successful, right? And so if somebody's a core person, great, like be a core person. But 24/7 mindset, another good way to be very, very successful. And so, I mean, I'm here because I believe in this model, but Erin as a coach, great person. Her business is called Pursuing Freedom. I think her tagline is build a life that you don't need to vacation from is kind of her big thing. But she's been massively inspirational for me over the years. I did one-on-one coaching with her for a while, and it was very, very instrumental in helping kind of take me, I don't know, life's just like this, right? Business is like this. And so there's been highs, and then we've come, and been in peaks and valleys. And so she was instrumental in helping kind of get me out of a valley and get me refocused and excited about a process that I could be excited about, as opposed to just like getting beat over the head with dial, call more people, So love Erin and would commend her to anyone.
Yeah, she's a very high level of integrity. I love her content, and her and I have a lot of similarities. We did a show not too long ago. We did a call not too long ago, trying to figure out where we can partner together. So hopefully we'll get to that finish line, and I think that'd be great. So love her to death, and I think she's awesome for the industry. All right. So you read the book 24/7 Mindset. What was some of your ahas you got from the book? Then we'll talk about the 6-lane highway.
Yeah, so I'll just again start with humility. I finished the book, kind of tore through it over the course of probably 3-4 weeks, and it was the first time I'd read a book that was specifically for loan officers, and that's what attracted me to it most. So again, plug for Erin. She said, "Hey, you should read this." And I did, and it was literally about this time last summer that I finished it, and I was on coaching calls with her, more group coaching stuff, and I was just feeling like a total imposter. I was like, I'm not sure how to implement any of this stuff. This kind of feels overwhelming. There feels like a lot here, and I never really felt. I'd felt I'm a pretty confident person.
Yeah.
After reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. I'm not quite sure what to do, but I knew that I wanted to implement the 6-lane highway. I knew that I wanted to grow in this process, and it spoke to me, but I wasn't quite sure where to start. So coming off of reading your book, major imposter syndrome, but knew like, oh, this would work, absolutely. And it was just kind of like, but how do I start? And so had some of those conversations with Erin and team and her collective group coaching content, but when it was all said and done, it I think it came full circle when, I ended up joining Aspire. So
yeah. So when you look at that, like, was at any point in the book that you're like, this dude's completely full of baloney, or any point in the book? The only reason I say that is like sometimes I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was on a golf trip with, and he goes, "Man, I've read your book." I'm like, I still get like goosebumps when someone says I've read your book, and I'm still surprised that I've written one. But he was like, "Yeah, I never wanted to meet you," and I said, "Why the heck would you not want to meet me?" He goes, "Well, I kept on comparing me to you as I read the book." And one thing we're walking, and I stopped and I looked at him and put my arm on his shoulder, and I said, "Listen, comparison is the thief of joy, first of all. And you seem like a smart guy, but it's really stupid to compare my chapter 20 to your chapter 1, or my chapter 20 to your chapter 6. Math won't math." So I think, you look at your world, and you say you've done this now 7 years now. Well, I've done it 26 years, and I've done it at a really high level for 26 years. So did you ever have any of those feelings, or was that something that was just not in your realm?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Again, human, and comparison is easy. And I think it's so easy to look at somebody else's success and say, well, I just want that right now. And, you fail to understand that it takes a long time to build that. And it's one step at a time. The Gap and the Gain, great book, comes to mind, right? So if you're always just forward looking at the the ultimate end goal, that goalpost is always going to move. You're always going to feel inadequate. You're always going to fall short of that. But I think the cool thing is if we actually turn around and look backwards, measure backwards, it's like, oh yeah, I may not be where I want to be, but goodness gracious, how cool to look back and see where we've come from, right? So my database isn't huge, but I think I've been able to help 350 families over the years, and that's really cool, right? And it's not 20,000 families, right? But if my goal is, I got to get to 10,000 families, and I never turn around and look backwards and say, 350 families that we've been able to help, right? And that's led to income, and that's led to opportunities, and that's led to vacations for my family, and that's led to a quality of life, and that's led to generosity, and all the things that I think that's the right mindset for this. And I say it to myself, not even to the audience. Like, I'm preaching to myself as much as I am to anybody else that's listening, is to, hey, remember that. That's the right mindset to be in. Because I'm in my own head, and we all are our own worst enemies, right? Nobody talks to you the way that you do. Nobody talks to me the way that I talk to me. And if anybody else talked to me that way, I'd be like, what the heck? I don't want to be in a relationship with you. So I don't know why we put up with that type of internal content that we get from ourselves. But we have to continue to preach the truth to ourselves on a daily basis because we're forgetful. So
I think it's interesting. The opposite of manifesting is your subconscious. What I mean by that is when I look at, this is a golf thing. How many times have we all hit a shot, that bad shot, like, oh God, you're an idiot. Why'd you hit in the water? Why'd you hit in the bunker? And it's that somebody said the other day, I can't remember who it was, but I read it somewhere. It said, golf is hard enough. You don't need to be hard on yourself. And business is the same thing. Mortgage right now is hard. Why are you being hard on yourself? And when you talk negatively to yourself, your subconscious is listening. When your subconscious is listening, it becomes that more negative outcome. So if you keep talking to yourself in a positive light, your subconscious is listening to yourself, talk to yourself in a positive light, then it manifests that positively into what you're thinking. It's just a formula.
100%. But gosh, doesn't it feel good when you hit that shot right on the screws?
Yeah. But all fairness though, I don't know about your golf game, but that's maybe 2-3 times around. So
yeah, I hit 6 greens last time I played, and I think the goal is 50%. So I fell far short of that. But I think if you can make your misses be manageable, whether it's in business or in golf or whatever it is, then you can very easily recover from that, right? You're not making double and triple bogey.
Well, and also I feel like when I know you and I have talked golf forever, but when you look at like the PGA Tour players, are like, you and I are, let's say we're 100 yards out or 120 yards out. We got a pitch wedge, and you're going for the green. You hit it and you hit it to like 20 feet. You're like, God, man, I left it out. You're complaining about you hitting it to 20 feet. Well, if you look at the PGA Tour average, their average is like 19 feet from 120 yards. And at the end of the day, like, dude, you're within a foot of a PGA Tour player that does this for a living, and you're a weekend warrior. Like, we've got to put things in perspective. So when you as a loan officer is compare yourself to your goals, but compare yourself to what those correct daily metrics is. And I think that's where a lot of people really just focus on, what volume did you close or what income did you make? But it's that comparison is the thief of joy again. Yeah. So I have a question. It might be kind of a curveball question, but what did you try to implement that you read from the book? Yeah, what did you try to implement that you read from the book that you struggled implementing, and now that you've been in the 6 Lane Highway Academy, it's been easier for you?
Yeah, well, I think coming out of reading the book a year ago, I wanted to immediately build relationships with as many of the 6 Lane Highway partners as I could, whether that was CPAs or financial advisors or insurance agents, estate attorneys, et cetera, right? So yeah. I think you just start guns a-blazing trying to build relationship with these people. And I just started making phone calls to accounting firms in town, and that doesn't work, in case you're curious, right? They don't want to talk to you. You call an accounting firm and say, hey, yeah, I'm looking to build a relationship with a CPA so we can have a reciprocating, referral relationship. they're not clicking on you, but they're like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll have somebody give you a call back.
Yeah.
And they're not calling you back.
No.
That's not how this works. So instead, right, how does it work? Well, it's who do you know in your life that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and how can that be a warm introduction as opposed to a cold one? I'm in a B&I chapter at this point in my career, and we're looking to still grow the different seats in there. And one time I opened the Valpak coupons that come to your house, right? They're all the little advertisements that, hey, gutter cleaner or window washer, whatever it is. So I started calling a couple of those just out of curiosity. That was a fail. Every single one of those has an answering service, and nobody's interested in joining your B&I chapter when there's mailing you something that way. So I think that's probably going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Fish where the fish are. Use the easy button, as you say, right? Ask your people that are in your life, who do you know that you could introduce me to? So I think that's the mindset shift over the past, handful of months in trying to implement the six-lane highway that we're trying to utilize. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why that we've got a successful combination now that works is because there's many things that I did that was unsuccessful. Back in like 2019, I had this brilliant idea that my poor assistant, his name is Troy, I had him go through and spend hours and hours and hours, days of days, going through the previous year's closings, which was maybe like 700 fundings the previous year, and him going through and seeing who had a CPA and who was TurboTax or who was didn't have a CPA. And my brilliant idea was I was going to take the people that didn't have a CPA and turn around and refer them to the people that had a CPA. So I was calling these CPAs like, hey, I closed a loan for John Smith. Previously, they work with you. I'm the lender. You're the CPA. I want to be able to refer you clients. And like, yeah, we're not accepting new clients. I just kept on getting turned down. And finally, it was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how is this not working? Like, it's supposed to be a great idea. And once I started having my clients reach out to their CPA and CC me on the introduction via email, I started to get yeses and yeses and yeses from CPAs and financial advisors and militaries. This, unfortunately, when someone reads my book, they try to shortcut or any of the classes. I don't think you can be very successful in life or in business if you try to shortcut the process. One thing that's really important in the process and the value that you've seen in that, it's who do you know that knows who you want to know. There's a phenomenal book by Bob Bodine called The Power of Who. Have you read it by chance or not? Oh my God. You got to read it. And probably top 3 best books of my whole entire life. Number 1. Number 2, he's a huge man of faith. And number 3, he's a big time golfer. And number 4, he's locally here in Dallas. Super great. All great things. But one thing that Bob talks about is you're one introduction away from meeting anybody the whole entire wide world. And it talks about Power of Who. A phenomenal book, but what I love so much about it is what Bob teaches is you've got your 120 closest friends or confidants or partners, but the top 20 will absolutely do everything, anything to introduce you to whoever. They've got a network. I did a mortgage coach show with Dave Savage probably a month and a half ago, and the title that I picked for it was "How to Grow Your Net Worth Through Your Client's Network." How do you grow your net worth through your client's network? And that's the mindset shift I really hope the listeners really understand. You've successfully done that. You've successfully taken your current database, grown into bigger relationships, and now you're using your podcast and your YouTube to be able to grow your influence in that space that allows you to open doors to referrals from referral partners. That's a mindset shift. How do you grow to have that mindset shift so others can do the same?
I mean, good influence, right? I'll give you some credit. You wrote a great book. Aaron Bradley, I think so many, I don't know, I'll say this about myself, and this can't be unique, right? Who doesn't love to follow a leader that they want to emulate? And I think that is such an important thing in your life, right? So I had a pit stop at another mortgage broker shop that had what I thought was a great leader, and and I thought, hey, maybe this would be a guy that I'd want to emulate. It just didn't work out, and that's okay. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but it was very evident and quick for me. And sorry if I'm being too forward here, but you're a guy that I wanted to follow because you've got a plan and a life that I'd like to emulate, and so that just makes it a lot easier. Like, if you're, in my case, if you're looking to implement a plan that somebody has, why not connect your wagon, hitch your wagon to them, right? They're probably the best equipped to be able to help you grow in that process. And so, I would say influences are the biggest impact on me. So.
Yeah, mentorships to me are by far the number one key to success at the end of the day. I mean, I think, I was super fortunate in my career when I started in 1999. I was 19 years old, and one of the first seminars I went to back in 1999 was Todd Duncan at Sales Mastery. And, to have his influence and have his fingerprint all through my career of originating for 20 plus years, and I learned so much and was able to grow so much. Then you got Tim Brahim's another one, very heavy, Dave Savage. You've got so many of these like Mount Rushmore type of mortgage legends in the business that they've opened so many doors, but I've consumed their content. And one thing that I really highly recommend is when I wanted to learn something from Dave Savage, like perfect example, like this podcast. And I went to Dave and I said, hey, Dave, I went and studied these top 20 YouTube videos of how to have the best podcast possible in the marketplace. Here's where I think from those top 20 YouTube videos that I feel like you do an amazing job on with Mortgage Coach and Trust Engine. Here's where I feel like I'm lacking, and here's where I want to improve. Can you coach me how to connect the dots and connect the steps and connect the processes or connect the systems or connect the technologies to go from what I see that you do well and where I see that I do poorly? And what's super cool is like now he's giving me like the cheat code of how to be able to turn 3 steps into 2 steps or 3 shots into 2 shots. That's the power of mentorship. But I didn't go to him and say, hey, man, my podcast sucks. Yours is awesome. Can you make mine better? Right? I showed him, hey, I'm doing all this legwork. I've spent all this time analyzing, and here's where I feel like you're specifically where I want your time. So then you can specifically add value to my world. Every and any mentor I've ever seen opens the floodgates when you show that kind of value.
Yeah, just the shotgun approach of I suck, can you help me is probably a much harder thing for somebody to say yes to versus a much more targeted, hey, I've leaned into this is where I feel like I need help, can you help, right? And then if you have the skill set and the time, you're a great person, you're probably going to say yes.
Yeah, there was a buddy of mine about 2 weeks ago said, hey man, you're a really great golfer. Can you teach me how to play golf? I'm like, absolutely not. No. And he goes, why? I said, because you asked the wrong question. I said, what do you like about my golf game? And he goes, well, you're super consistent. Okay. Then you didn't ask them, what makes you consistent in your golf game? And I said, I use very little hinge. I use very little arms. And I turn my upper body. So if you can turn your body back, turn your body forward, you've got a lot of control on the trajectory of the ball. And I said, I can help you learn how to turn your body, but you want me to teach you the game of golf. There's no chance. And that's where I feel like in mortgage is like somebody wants me to teach a mortgage. There's 0 chance. Someone wants me to teach them how to turn your database into a data bank that you can take withdrawal on it. I feel like I'm one of the best in the nation to be able to do that. So I'd say one of the biggest things that I love about this industry and what we can carve out in our life, and this is what I'm watching you, Gavin, start to do with your podcast, is the most successful, the happiest, and the most profitable business are specialists, but not generalists. So if you keep focusing on how to become a specialist in your craft, in your lane, in your world, in your industry, whatever the case is, keep focused on being a specialist, there'll be more money and more success than you have to do with it. If you go to being everything to everyone and being a generalist, you're going to struggle financially and you probably end up giving up.
Well said. That's a BNI-ism for sure too, right? So it's like your best commercial is something specific and memorable, as opposed to, yeah, I'm a loan officer. I can help anybody that has a pulse buy a house or refi. Well, no one's going to remember that, right?
Yeah, it's funny. There was an old sales coach that told me, he goes, "What's your elevator speech?" But if I asked you, "What do you do for a living?" And what are you saying? I gave him like this baloney answer of like, "Yeah, I'm a loan officer. I do da 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 da." And he goes, "No one's gonna remember that." And he said, and he goes, "What can you say is memorable?" And I made the joke. I'm like, "I don't know, man. I just sell money for a living." He goes, "Say that." And so somebody goes, "What do you do for a living?" I go, "I don't know. I just sell money for a living." What do you mean you sell money for a living? And it just leans them in. So, all right, we got 1 minute left. I want to give you the closing thoughts. You've got an amazing story. I think you're an awesome human being, and I can't wait for our friendship to keep growing. You're an inspiration to loan officers out there. What is it that you feel like you want to embark on them as closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, the turning point of enjoying this business versus just trying to execute and dial the phone has been starting to consume content, and really good content. And I would say it's books, right? So if you're not an actual reader, then get an Audible subscription. Or if you want to listen to 24/7 Mindset, get it on Apple Books or wherever else it's available. But yeah, I would say that's one of the best advice that I've ever received is you got to start getting through books, churning through them as quickly as you can. And then so many of these books have lots to implement, and then you can get overwhelmed, like, well, how do I implement all of it? And then I think that the best advice would be, what's the one thing, Gary Keller book, right, that you can implement after you read that book, whatever that book is. And so I'd say carve out time in your week, be structured as much as you can, listen to great content, and then what's the one thing that you can try to implement?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And the second half of that question is, what's the one thing you can implement? Such by doing it makes everything else easy or unnecessary. And to me, I agree with Gavin fully, just reading books. So, and you know, we can definitely, I think we can do a whole other podcast about how to read a book and how to learn a book, how to implement from a book. But we'll save that for the next one. How about that, Gavin?
Sounds great.
All right, brother. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for being on, and I'll see you again soon.
Gosh, it was an honor. Thanks.
See you.
So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.